a lot of marketers, they spend too much time thinking that digital marketing is reality. You know, they operate in this world where customers are very simple beasts, where they see ad, click ad, and buy. Today, that gap might be only 2, 3, 4%, but I think we're going to see that gap 5%, 10%, 20%, 30%. And within a couple of years, people who don't have some sort of level of investment in AI just won't be able to compete. And customers are giving us ounces of data. Every time we're on their site, they're clicking, they're hovering, they're filtering, they're searching. But we have tons of data and we're just throwing it away. As marketers, we think that is the only way people buy, particularly as digital marketers. It just doesn't make sense. Yet we still operate in that framework.
Hello and welcome to another episode in Road Ahead Talks. I'm Dr. Anshu Jalura and our host today is Mark Baartse from Australia. Mark is an accomplished marketer helping multiple Fortune 500 companies with their marketing strategies and how they can connect better with their customers. It's an absolute pleasure to have you as a speaker, Mark.
Thank you. Great to be here with you, Dr. Anshu.
Great. It's our pleasure to speak with you today. Now, I was looking at your career journey and I noticed you started your journey in the software development side and later on you transitioned to the area of marketing. Can you share with our audience what was your motivation behind the shift?
Yeah, as I just mentioned to you just before we started recording, I actually started running recording studios before that. And I went from that into software development. I worked for Microsoft, a few companies, but primarily Microsoft. So if you remember in the late 90s, early 2000s, when the MSN websites were everywhere, I was lead dev globally. I think I built MSN India. Pretty sure that was one of the ones. We did 24 countries. Honestly, I just found that I thought the software was down the end of the food chain, was my impression. That, you know, I saw there was a whole bunch of decisions being made, and then it came down to the software developers to implement. And I was kind of more interested in what was happening up the food chain. And so part of a broader organization, of course. And I just found what the marketing guys were doing was more interesting. And so I kind of managed to kind of wheedle my way across that and kind of gradually managed to get jobs involved in that and learned. And then with the rise of performance marketing, which kind of valued technical skills, I managed to leverage that. And then, you know, I consider myself to be a full stack marketer these days. I spend, you know, a lot of performance marketers are just like spreadsheet gurus or whatever, but, you know, I'm very, very interested in brand strategy and customer experience in things that are well outside the realms of I've got the software thing. And I think that's where the most value is often created.
Absolutely right. As you move into the area of marketing, you get closer to customers and you move up on the food chain in some sense.
Yeah, I love being close to customers. I think most marketers don't spend anywhere near enough time talking to customers, nowhere near enough time.
Wow, what an amazing observation you have. Now, picking on this particular point, when you look at other marketers, what are some common mistakes that you feel marketers do today, which should be fixed?
I mean, that's what we just touched on. Number one, they don't spend anywhere near enough time talking to customers. I'll give you, as a company I'm working with, probably a little bit smaller than most companies. I'm kind of sort of mentoring them a little bit. And I was chatting with the CEO and he took me through this incredibly complex spreadsheet with like ROAS calculations down to, you know, on 1 day click and 30-day click and LTV modeling. It was like, this is more complicated than any spreadsheet I've ever done. And then what I did is I just spent some time actually chatting with his customers, you know, actual real potential customers. And the insights we got from that, like far and away, just showed that the entire product range was wrong. And, you know, and clearly and demonstratively have videos of these conversations with customers. And when you watch them, there's just no doubt. He immediately said, yes, that is wrong. We need to fix that, and just forgot about all those calculations. So, you know, not that I got anything against. I love a good spreadsheet. They're a lot of fun, but it's understanding the bigger picture, and people get lost in the weeds a little bit. I think another one kind of related is people. A lot of marketers have that they spend too much time thinking that digital marketing is reality. They operate in this world where customers are very simple beasts, where they see ad, click ad, and buy within 7 days or within 30 days or whatever their attribution window is. And that's just not how reality works. And they spend way too much time thinking about ROAS and thinking about these very, very simplistic metrics that just don't reflect the real world. You look at, the shirt you're wearing or the glasses you're wearing or the microphone in front of you, how many of them were see ad, click ad, buy, or look around you, the listeners look around things. How many things did you buy that way? It's a fairly small percentage. And as marketers, we think that is the only way people buy, particularly as digital marketers. And it just doesn't make sense. Yet we still operate in that framework.
Wow, what an amazing perspective. A lot of marketers have this impression, if I just paraphrase your point, they live in this world where they believe that if they show an ad, people will click it and will buy. And that's not how world works. Now, but it is important for marketers to show right products to the customers. So definitely you cannot sell anything to a customer, but you need to be able to sell the right things to the customer. Now, a lot of enhancements have come in the area of artificial intelligence and technology. Do you see opportunities for marketers to make use of artificial intelligence and technology, especially in this new year 2025, and better connect with customers?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, artificial intelligence, I think, right in 2024, we're recording this in January 25. In 2024, yeah, I mean, everyone was playing with ChatGPT and using ChatGPT to help with their email subject lines and help them write a proposal and write them a business case and all that basic stuff we're all doing. And if we're not doing that, then just press stop now. You're playing the wrong game, I think. But in 2025, I think we're going to see the next level. I think, people think ChatGPT is just a way, or other AI engines just a way to do very simplistic things. But I think we're going to start seeing the real true value unlocked. Now, what that looks like, I can pretend to gaze in my crystal ball. I'm not exactly sure, but I think there is a lot of potential and a lot of disruption. And I think in 2025, we're going to start seeing the gap emerge between the have and the have-nots in the AI realm. I mean, look at, I know they're easy company to pick on, but look at Amazon and the billions they're spending on AI research. There's a company in Australia I know who have really invested heavily in AI, and like a largest publicly traded company. And I was chatting to I work with some financial analysts who are analyzing the retail space, and I had lunch with one of them recently. And she was saying all their numbers are looking so good, and she attributes that all to their investments in AI. And so at today, that gap might be only 2, 3, 4%, but I think we're going to see that gap 5%, 10%, 20%, 30%. And within a couple of years, people who don't have some sort of level of investment in AI just won't be able to compete. That's my prediction.
So you do see AI as a essential tool for retailers and brands to compete in 2025. Let me ask a slightly different but related question. Oftentimes, AI is criticized for lacking creativity. The thought behind AI is that, yes, there are certain things that have worked well in the past, and AI will understand what has worked best in the past and will give you a solution based on the learning it has built from what has worked in the past. Right? But marketing is also about being creative, and my customer behavior is also changing. So in this scenario, if we only rely on artificial intelligence, it will not give us that edge of being unique and different, because we would be, if 5 companies are using the same AI, they will all end up with the same solutions, and suddenly the things will start looking very boring.
Yeah.
How should this monotony be broken?
Well, I think that's a fair question, and it's a fair criticism that's leveled at AI, because it can be very formulaic. I think that there's a couple of, and I'm not dismissing that. I think that there's absolutely some valid concerns there. On one side, I would say the overwhelming majority of marketing produced by humans is incredibly boring and monotonous. I regularly find that the imagination level of marketers is just non-existent. But they play it so incredibly safe and so conservative. And you know, I was working for an airline, you know, several years ago, and if I wanted to get a project signed off, all I had to do was say the word Emirates. Emirates are doing it; they would sign off on it. That was it. And I won't mention who, but it's a major airline you've heard of and probably flown on. Yeah, if I said Emirates are doing it, and all they did was copy their competitors, and I see that again and again. Industries, they just copy each other, and so in that case, maybe AI can breathe some fresh breath into it. But yeah, at this point in time, you know, we're talking about generative AI and ChatGPT, then yeah, I think good prompts can lead to good ideas. Boring prompts lead to boring ideas. Good prompts lead to good ideas. A lot of the time, it's not perfect. And then at the same time, I think a lot of AI is going to do stuff which is probably a little bit closer to your heart. A lot of the boring back office stuff, where, you know, obviously pricing, you know, I know you've invested heavily in AI and pricing and logistics and demand forecasting and all that sort of stuff. That stuff is just, to my mind, that is so ripe for disruption, and you don't need to be creative in most spaces necessarily.
Absolutely right. When we are connecting with customers, there are multiple basics that need to be made right. Can you touch upon this particular subject, which I know is very dear to you also, which is the subject of personalization? Would you like to share that example that you shared with me in terms of somebody who's looking for a particular size of shoe? How should marketeers use AI to connect better with their customers?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even sure if we need AI to do this stuff, you know. So, which it's kind of my personal frustration, but I have unusually large feet, and you can't see me, but I'm a very tall in person, so it's my Dutch heritage. It doesn't show on camera, but I have large feet, and so I get frustrated that I go to a store like there's a large store in Australia where I've bought multiple shoes from, and you know, always in the same size. And I think once or twice I've returned things that were too small. So they've got this mountain of data on me. I go to the website, I'm signed in, and they continuously recommend me shoes that will not fit me. Like, predictably and reliably will recommend bad shoes. And then I leave the site and they will send me remarketing ads recommending me shoes that don't fit me. It's like I've given them, and this is a large company, you know, over $1 billion in revenue. They've got the resources. I've met their head of data science. I know that they have it, and yet that they are just wasting my time. They're wasting all their customers' time recommending and trying to sell me products which I will never buy. Which is just, it's a lose-lose scenario. It gives me a bad customer experience. It makes me less inclined to visit, and it wastes their time. It wastes their media clicks. So I've actually done this with a fashion brand, where basically the same problem, where, you know, obviously, you know, the strongest signals of buying is an incredibly strong signal. If I buy a dress in size 8, you can say pretty confidently I'm a size 8, right? Yeah, maybe you're buying for a friend, maybe my weight's gone up and down, but, you know, with a high degree of confidence, you can say I'm a size 8. But even as an anonymous customer, if I come into the site, and I've done this as possible, you know, you can say, okay, this customer has got a size 8 dress and added it to basket, or gone to the facets and chosen show me only size 8 dresses. We can say with a pretty high degree of confidence that's a size 8 customer. Mm-hmm. It's not perfect, but it's better than doing nothing whatsoever. And so why can't we get that data and use that to personalize the customer experience? I think we're in this world where people, I was chatting with someone I worked with a while ago, and to them, personalization was just like some machine learning driven product recommendations. If you like this, you may like that. And personalization is so much more than that. You know, it's about personalizing the customer journey, not just recommending other products. And so how can we use the data we have on customers? And customers are giving us mountains of data. Every time we're on their site, they're clicking, they're hovering, they're filtering, they're searching. But we have tons of data, and we're just throwing it away. And the data is so valuable, and so we should use that to reflect the customer experience back to them, and help them achieve the goal. They're not browsing our site for fun. They're browsing for a reason to buy something.
Oh, that's I mean, that's an amazing tip for the marketeers, that not just look at your product features and functionalities, but also look at customer's journey, take insights from the customer's journey and show what's relevant for the customer. Um, Now shifting to the customer behavior side. Now
Mm.
customers in the recent years, the amount of options available for customers to purchase has exploded. There are so many retailers equipped with so many amazing products to choose from. And in this kind of a scenario, uh, customers are often comparing products across different platforms. So, how can retailers keep their competitive edge in this scenario?
Yeah, well, that's a big question there. I mean, that's to me that's the crux of marketing. But the last time I had a when I was like a full-time in-house CMO, I kind of basically defined my job. In fact, this is getting well and truly into your territory. We did some pricing analysis studies, and we found that when people knew what brand the product was from, the brand I was working for, versus people who just saw a product, the people who knew the brand were prepared to pay 20% more, right, for the exact same thing. Now, I'm sure this is old news to you, and essentially, I saw my personally, not KPIs with the CEO and blah 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 blah, but personally, my primary KPI was how do I get that 20% to 30%? How do I demonstrate the value of the product I am selling? And that's a complex thing. Obviously, there's a product, there's a pricing, all those sorts of things. But there's the brand, there's the positioning, there's the value proposition, and it's about being in the right place and the right time. And we get into brand strategy there, and how do we kind of link our product to the right category entry points, and all those sorts of kind of brand strategy things. And so it's complex. You've virtually defined the field of marketing there. I think, how do we justify that our product is the best product and worth the price that we are asking for it?
Yes.
I'd love to hear your answer to that from a pricing perspective as well.
Yeah, I mean, you've made a wonderful point. Brands need to understand how worth their products are, but in lots of cases, because uh, there is so much data available in the market, for the sake of speed and to keep things simple, lots of organizations are simply matching prices of competition without even understanding that yes, they have an edge with their product. There are certain aspects of your brand, your product, that's connecting better with the customer, and therefore you have permission from your customer to charge them a premium. But we are letting that premium go away, or in some other cases, brands need to understand that uh, their competition has an edge, and they will not be able to charge the same price as their competition is able to. So having that right sweet spot, identifying the right sweet spot where they need to sit before they can claim to have this competitive pricing, is something that they need to invest and possibly use artificial intelligence and technology for.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but it's complex because humans are not logical beasts, right? I mean, but the whole of modern economics is based on Adam Smith's theory that humans are rational consumers, which is fundamentally flawed. But you see, in India, the blocks of Kellogg's cornflakes or something for 500 rupees. Yeah, like a no-name brand of cornflakes, even if it's the exact same product, you're not going to sell that for 500 rupees. It's going to be 300 or 400 or whatever it might be, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the difference the brand makes, is getting that 300 to 500. And that's what I see as a huge part of my job, is justifying the value that I'm charging.
Now, with this explosion of options, do you see customers becoming more price sensitive, especially in Australian markets?
Yeah, and like much of the world, Australia is in. We're not technically in a recession, but we're in, let's say, a recession-like condition. And like much of the world, we've got like major housing issues here and major pricing issues here, and inflation's been high. Like I think a bunch of Western countries are doing that at the moment. So yeah, we've definitely seen customers become more price sensitive. And so obviously we need to respond. We need to respond to that. We need to be careful with our core pricing, but we also need to like bundle differently and package differently and offer different product options and those sorts of things, you know, all the kind of fairly common sense stuff. Like, you know, I've seen some ads around Sydney, Australia, where I live, like, you know, like all the fast food shops, so they're all promoting their value menu, their dollar menu at the moment. I see great big bus ads with like, you know, here's the 5 products you can get for $1, $2, or $3 at the moment. And so they're clearly responding to that cost of living pressure that we're experiencing in Australia and much of the world right now. But it also doesn't change for marketing fundamentals. But, you know, there's some people are just going to buy on price, and that's the only way they're going to buy. And okay, that's fine. And there are strategies, you know, you can do dynamic pricing and all that sort of stuff, or you can, you know, do discounting and, you know, creative discounting applications. But on the other hand, it is still about justifying the value, because there's a significant cohort of people who are less affected by the current economic conditions. Like, you know, the data is very clear that people like over 45, over 50 are actually spending more than ever in Australia. They're actually going the other way. And so that's out there, but they're just like still buying like they always have. And so they still respond to the value messages and the quality messages that they always have responded to.
Absolutely. So over the wonderful career you have had in the marketing domain, what are some of the areas where you have changed your opinion on over the years?
Oh, how long have I got? Pretty much everything. I mean, I came up through the performance marketing world. And so I used to be a hardcore performance marketer, where, you know, if you can't measure it based on a click, if you can't measure it based on ROAS, it's not real. And I've realized the exact opposite is for true. But that's, you know, there's certainly, I'm not anti-performance marketing, not for a second, but I think you need to see that as part of a bigger picture. I remember I was working for an agency. I was running an agency several years ago, and we had a large bank as a client, and we were running Google ads for them. And you know, we're spending a fair bit of money. I'd check the data every day. And, you know, it was within a normal range, whatever, you know, this whatever. And one day I came in, and the data was all out of whack. The clicks were much higher, and the clicks were, you know, there's far more clicks and far cheaper. And I rang my contact at the bank, said, "What have you guys done? What's happening here? You know, all our data is looking incredible, and we haven't touched anything." And they said, "Oh yeah, we launched a huge TV and bus campaign yesterday." And yet it made all our performance metrics look amazing. And you know, performance marketers like to pretend that sort of thing doesn't happen, but it does. That you know, performance marketing that they think is marketing, but it's just one small branch of marketing. You know, and performance marketers, they think, oh, okay, you do brand, so they don't even talk about pricing as part of marketing, because, you know, the 4 P, you know, pricing is one of the 4 Ps. I don't need to tell you that.
Absolutely. And pricing is one of those P's that, you know, generates money.
It's the only one that generates money. Everything else is spending money.
So what an amazing change you've got in your perspective towards marketing and your critique on performance marketing. Lots of changes in thoughts are also impacted by changes in customer behavior. Are there any customer behavior trends that you have observed over the years, some which might continue in 2025 also, that you would like to pinpoint?
Customer trends that have changed. I mean, on some hand, lots. In the other hand, customers are still customers, and customers, you know, people haven't changed for, you know, 10,000 years or something. And I think people forget that, and people think people are constantly changing, but their motivations are still there, and they're still buying emotionally, for example, and that hasn't changed. And, you know, but there's a lot of smaller tactical behaviors that have certainly changed. You know, like one of my personal obsessions right now, and I'm not saying this is the biggest thing, is what determines trust, because trust is a huge determination of whether people are going to buy or not, particularly online, whether they trust the brand, they trust the product. And so I'm actually in the middle of doing some research on trust at the moment. And funnily enough, I just completed a big survey, and sneak preview, the number one determination of whether people will trust a product is whether they know the brand, whether it's a well-known, trusted brand. Yeah, it sounds very obvious, but, you know, people spend so much time focusing on other things. And so again, it comes back to having the right brand and communicating it. So, but I think the, stuff like, influencers, for example, used to be a major trust point a few years ago. I think that's starting to fade, starting to die out, for example. Obviously, more people are buying online, more people are willing to buy online, more people have higher expectations around the quality of online experiences. And people also expect like better omni-channel integration, for example. Like 10 years ago, you could get away with having quite different experiences on your website and quite different stock and different options on your website versus in store. And these days, people will not tolerate that. People just walk away from those sorts of things. So the consumer is evolving and becoming more sophisticated.
Wow. So you've touched upon both. Some things about customers will remain same. For example, they customers are emotional and they emotionally connect with brands and retailers. And you've also touched upon the importance of certain things such as influencers is decreasing with time, and customers are becoming more quality conscious and experience conscious. So organizations need to spend more efforts in giving unparalleled omni-channel experience to customers. Now, you touched upon this topic of building trust. Now, for a physical brick and mortar retailer, because they are coming very close, they can do one-on-one conversations with customers, and they can build a connect with customers much more easier. Any tips you have for e-commerce companies on how can they build trust with their customers?
Yeah, it's more challenging. There's a certain level of trust which is intrinsic in having a physical shop, and you can't replicate that. But what I found, I spent a lot of time talking to customers and doing customer research and surveys and actually literally talking to customers, which I think is very underrated as well. To hear the literal voice of the customer is very valuable. But building trust online, I think, is having the right proof points there. Demonstrating that you're a credible company. People do spend a lot of time looking at third-party reviews. It's very, very common behavior that, I'm sure we've all done this. You find a new brand, you like the product, you open up a new tab in Chrome, you Google brand name reviews, and you go and look at your favorite third-party review site. So having reviews, and that's well known, that's not rocket science. I think it's about longevity, and you talk to the average person on the street and they're still buying from legacy brands in my experience. I don't know the Indian market as well, but people are still buying from legacy brands, and they do have an unfair advantage in terms of their longevity and their brand awareness, and that just leads to a certain level of trust. But I'll give you one example. There was one brand I was helping launch in the US, and we spoke to a bunch of American customers, and we got them to look at the website, and prospective customers, people in our demographic, so they weren't customers, and the feedback came back again and again. Love the site, love the products. Are you guys legit? Because they thought maybe it's it's a fashion company, maybe it's some horrible Temu drop shipper thing where you're going to buy get some $3 garment made of like plastic, right?
Yeah.
And so there was a multi, and so that was killing our conversion rate because people did not trust us, and so there was a multi-pronged attack to that. But part of that was setting up a pop-up shop in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And the goal of a pop-up shop was not to sell. The goal of a pop-up shop was to let people know they could come in. I didn't care who came into the pop-up shop. I care that people knew they could come into the pop-up shop. There's a key subtle difference there, because Temu dropshippers don't set up shops in West Hollywood. And the primary measure was online conversion rate. And it did, in fact, go up off the back of that. So that was a trust building exercise.
So the pop-up shops were helping build the trust, which was eventually reflecting in the online conversions itself.
Yeah, pop-up shop was only open for, I think, a month or something. I really didn't care who came into the pop-up shop. It was immaterial to me.
Yeah.
I think we sold like $20,000 of product in the pop-up shop for like a $200,000 cost or something.
Yeah, right. But the reputation it builds, that's important. And you also mentioned organizations need to focus on building right online reputation for themselves. Now, do you see opportunities for organizations to charge a premium if they have a good online reputation? Can they monetize online reputation in addition to building trust?
I think yes, in some categories. So, if you're a D2C, I think people will pay a premium. In fact, I know they will. There's one brand I've worked closely with for a couple of years, and we've done a lot of work in building up. It's D2C, so that they are selling their own products. And so you can't directly compare. Obviously, there's competitors, but you can't directly compare them to a competitor. Like, it's not a one-for-one comparison. And we've spent a lot of time building up trust in the brand, building up, working on the user experience, on the customer experience, all those sorts of things. And we are charging a premium over our customers. And we have intelligence that suggests we're probably still converting higher than our customers who are charging a lower price. And that's an ongoing thing. That project will never stop. It's not even a project. That's just how we operate as a business. In multi-brand resellers, where you're selling the exact same product to someone else, that's a harder challenge.
Right. Related to this pricing and a relation between pricing and trust, you mentioned that yes, if my quality of service is better, my brand is more trusted, I can possibly, in a D2C scenario, direct to consumer scenario, I can possibly charge a premium.
Yes.
Can it work the other way around also, where if my pricing are completely out of whack, they are not making any sense, and my competition pricing is fair, will I end up spoiling my trust with customers if I'm not priced correctly enough?
Are you talking about pricing too low or too high, or both?
If I'm priced too high?
Sure, of course. I mean, we all know that, this is luxury aside, right? Luxury has its own different pricing rules. I don't know if you do luxury stuff, but that's a whole different ball game. But yes, absolutely, people just will simply not buy. You have to match the price with the value you're offering, and the value is the product, the brand, the experience, the service. It's not just the product. It's a whole suite, right? That's where that's where value comes from, and that's all baked into the price, I believe.
Right. So as we come to the end of this session today, any last minute tips, few tips that you would like to give to marketeers and category managers for 2025?
I would just be watching AI really, really closely. I think, the last couple of years, we saw ChatGPT emerge, and obviously that's been disruptive in some ways. And it's made our jobs, maybe 5-10% easier, whatever it might be. I would see what the next generation brings and make sure you're investing in that. Make sure your personal skills are there. Make sure your organizational skills are there. Because as I was saying at the beginning, I believe that the big disruptions are yet to come, and there's going to be the haves and have-nots in AI, and it's going to be an interesting couple of years to watch. Maybe it won't fully emerge in 2025, but I think now's the time to build the maturity and the skills in that space.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. Clearly, your experience of connecting with the customers reflects in today's session. And I personally have learned a lot from our conversation today, and I'm sure our audience will feel the same way. So thank you so much for taking out time today and sharing your thoughts and experiences with our audience.
Thank you. It's been great to chat.
Thank you so much. And for our audience, for more such insightful sessions, please subscribe to our channel, Road Ahead Talks. Signing off for today. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.